Welcome to Pint with Seaniebee, coming to you from the Courthouse Hotel in London. This was picked by my guest. I didn't really know an awful lot about it. It's the famous courthouse where Oscar Wilde, Mick Jagger, Christine Keeler, it's the sort of celebrity courthouse in London. And I think they closed it about 20 or 15 years ago and turned it into a 5-star hotel, and we're in a downstairs part on a couple of couches. So it's a bit boomy, and it's all going to add to the ambience of London in March. I have a Mr. London kind of thing as a guest today. He's a prolific writer. He used to work with the NME, New Music Express. He's all into music, fashion. He's written books about the Beatles, David Bowie, Paul Weller, The Jam, Oasis, you name it. And he's recently written a book for his young son, which we'll talk about as well. I'm welcoming Paolo Hewitt. How are you?
I'm very well indeed.
Your first podcast? I bet
No. I do
You've done loads, I'd say.
I do a Spurs one.
The Spurs show?
Yeah, the Spurs show.
My second guest from the Spurs show.
There you go. That must mean something.
Yeah. I wanted to start by talking to you, and I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but it was certainly one of the things that most interested me was your childhood. I have a lot of people on here who are lonely children. I have a lot of people on here, not by choice, by accident, who've lived independent lives, who've had to struggle when they were teenagers or kids. Tell me your story about your very early childhood. And
the first thing I would say about it, I was taken away from my mother after 2 days. I lived with a foster mother she made Cruella de Vil look like a good bet, right? She was completely lunatic, and then I went into a children's home. But as the years have passed, I am so glad that I was brought up in a children's home. Yeah. And I don't say that in a kind of defensive or in a way to cover up things, but as time has gone past, 2 things have come to realise. One, it gave me a lot of stuff which maybe I wouldn't have got within a family unit. And 2, sometimes when I sit with my friends and I hear them talking about their families, I think, thank God I was brought up in a children's home, man. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Really, seriously. Because the thing about children's home is that on a psychic level, we all knew that we were,
odd bunch.
Yeah.
Misfits.
We didn't have any expectations. We didn't think, oh, my mum will do this or my dad will do that. It was like, can we swear on this?
Of course, it's a podcast.
We are fucked, right? Yeah. Kids who get put in boarding schools, right? I look at it and I think, they've got a mum and dad. They wake up, they've got a mum and dad who are 100 miles away paying for them not to live with their mum and dad.
I know. So,
okay, let's start. In 1947, my mother was in Naples, in Sorrento, which is a beautiful part of the world.
Hence the Paolo.
Exact.
Right.
And she falls in love with a British soldier called Hewitt.
Any relation to Major James?
No, but I always wish I'd kept that headline in the News of the World in 1995, which read, I saw Hewitt's hand up Di's skirt. I thought, damn, I should have kept that. But I didn't because of this reason. My mum marries this guy. They have 2 children, 2 daughters, Frankie and Nina. Then my mum has a breakdown in 1952. They put her in a mental hospital in East Grinstead, right? Now, the thing about it is, if it happened today, she would get Prozac, a social worker, and within 3 months, she'd be back on her feet. Yeah. But obviously, darker times. She lived there for 40 years. What? Yes, she was there.
Electric treatment, all that stuff.
I don't know. Her? No, she. Yeah. She didn't have electric treatment. They just drugged her up.
Really?
Right. And I read her file reports.
Yeah.
When they interviewed her, they didn't even have a translator there. She didn't speak much English. No, you're asking somebody about their deepest thoughts. And it was very, very dark for her. Very dark for her. Anyway, in 57, she had an affair with someone. She never told me who. 58, July 58, I'm born. Right, and it's a big scandal at the hospital, right? Because it's like you can't be having.
I was in the hospital.
Yeah. Because she's a long-term patient. So I was whisked away and put into care. And they kept on asking who the father was, but she wouldn't tell them because I think she did it as this kind of act of defiance. She hated them so much, these people who were like keeping her there, that she was like, fuck you, I'm not telling you. When I got to ask her many, many years later, I met her when I was 10. So basically I went into care, and then when I was 4, I was fostered by this woman who was...
She was beating you up, basically.
Beating me up, locking me in cupboards, putting a lock on the outside of my bedroom, tying my wrists up at night.
Did she have kids?
No, she couldn't have kids. The thing is, I wrote a book about it called Looked After Kid, and I write about this in that, where I say that she would call up the social services and she would ask for another child, but it was like she was ordering pizza. Oh, could I have, I'd like Yeah, they can be Indian. I don't want black. You can have Indian, clever, a bit of mushroom on top. You know, a bit of pepperoni.
Have it here in half an hour.
You know, like, yeah, exactly. Is that Uber? You know,
That's terrible.
terrible. But that's what it was like in those days.
Have you got memories of that time before when you were 4?
My first memory is me looking down on myself. I was in this nursery and I was looking down on myself. And I told that to a psychologist and they went, oh my God, you know, your whole life you've had to kind of come back to yourself. I thought it was quite cool because I've had 2 out-of-body experiences. It was when I was 6 or 7, they would talk about this mother I had who was Italian and it made no sense to me. She was over there somewhere, you know. But I knew I was in a bad place when she started beating me and, you know, being really cruel and vindictive. But it's when I look back, even like, you know what you like when you're a kid? You don't want to hang out, if you're 11, you're not hanging out with the 8-year-olds, you want to hang out with the 14-year-olds because that's far more interesting what's going on there. But even those 8-year-olds, you know, now I look back and think, oh yeah, little Freddie Purvis and David Westbrook, they were all there and they were all like our little brothers, you know, and that's what I had. We had
and you were cared for, or were you?
We were...
In the home?
No. I called the book The Looked After Kid because I'd never heard the term before. And it struck me as very ironic because you were looked after, you had a roof over your head and you had food in front of you. But you weren't looked after in terms of how you're feeling, you know, what you're doing, how are you. You know, but where you got it was where you got your sustenance as the kids.
Yeah. And how was school for you, given that you were from the
I loved it. You know why? Because I was the odd one out. I loved it.
And you weren't bullied or anything?
I was, no, I was on the outside. I don't know, it was funny because all the kids around about 13, 14, all my mates, they kind of got into that suede head look, steak breads, Crombies and all that. And I couldn't afford it, but they kind of let me still be part of the gang. Cool. Do you know what I mean? So I felt, well, I must be okay.
I think that generation, then there became a time probably when I think I'm 10 years and 2 days. I was 9th of July 1968.
Oh, okay.
So we're a generation gap.
Yeah.
In Dublin in the 70s, kids like you would have been bullied in my class.
Why?
You know, because you're no money. You know, just stupid things kids would say, but they'd attack, you know, and they...
Oh, what? Because...
just because you're... Yeah,
well, because I'm from a children's home.
Daddy and your children. Yeah, exactly.
I'd have loved all that.
I think were you a scrapper?
No, I wouldn't have fighter, but I would have
yapped back.
Yeah, I would have done, definitely, because that's what you do at a children's home.
And I think today's 7, 8, 10-year-old children are more like your crew in a sense that they're more tolerant. They look after each other. They realise that we're leaving a fucking mess for them. Yeah, and they're more sexually. They're more tolerant about people who are.
Well, I tell you what. Did you see that thing in the Observer? And it was brilliant. Some professor about 3 months ago said that the voting age should drop down to 10. You could be 10 years of age. I agree. So the Observer asked all these 10-year-olds. The 2 things they talked about: climate change, we've got to stop that, and Brexit, we've got to stop that. Yeah. But the best quote, and I think he was a kid in Ireland. He said, "This Donald Trump, he keeps on about building a wall to make the world a safer place. I think if we build a wall around him, that would make the world a much safer place."
Better than out the babes.
You know what I mean?
And there's that Swedish girl who's kind of spearheading.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
And she's a genius.
She was.
It's the only little flicker of hope with Brexit and Trump and the mayhem and stuck in our mobile phones.
I say in the Colour Me Father book that 40 years ago, right, I was living under a lunatic American president called Ronald Reagan, a right-wing fanatic called Maggie Thatcher, and an ineffectual left-wing Labour leader called Michael
Foot.
Right. 40 years later, I am living under a right-man. The world, you know, the idea that Trump calls this turning. Is wrong.
This has been a slide into the swamp.
It's just that there's a famous book by De Lampedusa called The Leopard, and he says in it, for everything that remains the same, everything has to change.
Yeah. Is that plus ça change, plus ça même chose kind of thing? Yeah. Going back to your timeline, when you were in school, did you have a love of English, right?
Oh, yeah. Age 6, 7, I was reading Greek mythology. Really? Yeah, man. Yeah. I was up in my little room fighting the Trojan War. Yeah. I was really into reading. So I must have been 6, because it was October 1963. For some reason I was alone in the kitchen and the radio was on and She Loved Me by the Beatles came on. And it was like doing a hit of ecstasy or something. I mean, it was just, I spent the whole day going, she loves me, I just went absolutely... So music and books became my escape routes. Yeah. And then later on film. So at school, English, history, a little bit of geography. mass size.
Yeah, same.
I mean, technical drawing was hilarious. I remember we had this great technical drawing guy, Mr. McSherry. He was like the school hippie. He came up, he said, Paolo, he said, so I've given you 12% for your technical drawing exam. I thought, blimey, that's quite good. So I gave you 10% for getting your name right.
For drawing your name. And football.
Yes, football.
So how did the football start with you? You look like you'd be a left winger or something.
No, I was a Jimmy Greaves.
Were you?
Yeah, I was like
front?
Little Jimmy. Oh God, yeah, I was knocking goals. Yeah.
I want to talk about. Actually, let's segue there.
Yeah, go on.
One of your books, which I'm actually going to get, because it looks mad.
Go on.
Is the book you wrote about the Reading centre forward?
Oh, Robin Friday.
We have a very famous Gavin Friday in Ireland, by the way.
I know, and the amount of time people come and say, "How's your Gavin Friday book going?" He is not in the Virgin Prunes. He played for Reading Football Club.
The last thing I could imagine Gavin Friday doing is playing football. But tell the tale about this lunatic, because I followed football all my life. Never heard of it.
Well, okay, so by this time it's 1995, and I've hooked up with Oasis. I've met Noel, and we're getting on famously, and blah blah blah. And I meet the rest of the band. Everyone's football mad. I go to America to interview them for Select magazine, I think it was. When I get there, Griggsy says to me, "I'm really, really pissed off," and I'm like, "Why? What's wrong?" He said, "Look at this article," and it was a 5-page article in Shoot magazine about this guy Robin Friday. So why are you pissed off? He said, because I know every footballer going, and he does.
Yeah.
If you said to Griggsy, he played fullback for Russia in the 1954 World Cup.
Deep?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, he knows his football, that boy. I said, well, if you want to find out about him, you know, it's funny how these things happen. Like if that had happened in 94, it probably wouldn't have happened. But 95, they had 3 months off. So, no, 96, they had 3 months off in the summer. So I said, come on. Well,
European Championships were in England that
exactly.
year.
So I said, well, we can go down to Reading and we'll find out about this guy. And if there's something there, perhaps there's a book. Yeah. But, you know, we'll see. Because I'd never heard of him. But then I realised I had. Where I lived, where the children's home was in Woking. And my first football live experience was going to watch Woking play. And the first game I went to was floodlit football. You know, there's nothing like it.
Woking would be in the 5th league, right?
We were in the Isthmian League.
Yeah, Isthmian League. Yeah.
And so were a team called Hayes, who Robin played for. Because I distinctly remember people going, "Oh, you've got to go to that Hayes game, they've got this amazing player." And that must have been Robin. And I keep on meaning to go back to Woking and look up the result and the match report. But anyway, I knew somebody at Reading, or Havert called up Reading, said, "Look, can we come and look at your archive?" Right, which wasn't digitised; it was just dusty room, probably as big as
full
this,
of newspapers,
full of volumes, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about the Reading Evening Post was, it was daily, it wasn't weekly.
Yeah.
So,
not even on microfiche, just
actual paper. Actually, so we just said. But the thing was, of course, was that Griggsy is in Oasis, who were just like the biggest thing since whatever. So you get these little secretaries coming in. "Oh, I've just come. Oh, you're Griggsy from Oasis." Or the funniest one though, we made friends with the guy who wrote about Robin, the sports reporter, the football guy, whose name was Clive the Hound Baskerville.
Brilliant.
Right? You'd see him on the side of buses. This week in the Reading Evening Post, Clive the Hound Baskerville. You know, he came in one day and he said, Griggsy said, "The local MP has said that anybody who takes drugs are a degenerate and a loser." Mm-hmm. And Griggsy said, "Well, the guy's a complete fucking wanker then, isn't he?" We go back next week, headline, front cover of the paper, "Griggsy slams local MP in a blistering attack." It was brilliant. Anyway, this story just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We were just like, wow, okay, here he is. Reading have signed this guy. Oh, he's just made his debut. Oh, he's scored an amazing and another amazing. Oh, now the fans are singing his name, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we started doing interviews. We spoke to his family. We spoke to Charlie Hurley, his manager. Yeah. And Charlie Hurley, this to me was the summed up Robin. He said, "I saw him play for Hayes. We were bottom of the league. We needed a goal scorer. And I could see that this guy really had something. So I signed him, and I had him for a month in the reserves. And in that month, I found out everything that there was to know about Robin. And he said, I called him into my office about a month later. I said, "Robin, I'm going to give you your debut. You're going to play against Northampton this weekend." And Robin says to him, "Boss, that's great. I'll tell you what, I won't drink. I won't go with any women, and I won't get into any fights between then and the game." And Charlie Hurley went, "Robin, you can lie to me once, not 3 times." And that sums up Robin.
So this guy was this...
and he got promoted.
He actually got voted 3 times the greatest ever player for Reading. And Reading were
player
a
of
team
the
that were
century.
in
He was
the
player of the century.
Premier League.
He was player of the century for Reading.
Drinker, drug addict,
Shagger, serializer.
So he was like George Best.
Yeah, no. If George Best was a pop star, Robin was a rock star. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If George Best was the Tremeloes, this guy's Led Zeppelin. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he was like full on. Wouldn't go into training until Thursday.
And then he left the club under a shadow. He was kicked out, became an asphalter again.
No. What happened was he got Reading promoted, and it was the summer of '76, which was a really long hot summer, and he had 6 weeks off, and he went crazy. And when he came back, he was never the fastest player on the pitch, but he'd lost 2 yards. He said it to Charlie Eddie, he said, I've lost 2 yards, and he said, yeah.
It was Jimmy Quinn-esque.
2 years previous, he's out on a Friday night till 4 a.m, waking up and going and scoring a hat-trick. 2 years later, it's taken his toll. He's not scoring a hat-trick. No. So now he's becoming a liability. Plus he's probably doing,
all sorts.
Yeah. And so they have to sell him. They sell him to Cardiff. So his debut for Cardiff was New Year's Day 1977 against Fulham. And Bobby Moore plays for Fulham. And do you know what he does? He goes up to Bobby Moore and he goes, hello, I'm Robin Friday, and grabs Bobby Moore's testicles.
Vinnie Jones style.
Bobby Moore chases him around the pitch all game, and Robin scores 2 goals. Played 25 games for Cardiff. In that year, 2000, everybody voted for their player of the century, didn't they? Reading voted him the player of the century. Cardiff voted him their cult footballer of the century.
Really?
Yeah, he won 2.
The book's name is
The Greatest Footballer You Never Saw, and we're trying to make a film at the moment. That's because it'd just be amazing.
Go back to your timeline. You're in school. You're enjoying school. You're enjoying writing. When did you kind of go, hang on a second, I could probably make a go at this?
When I was 14 years old and I walked into the school common room and found Enzo Esposito reading a newspaper called The Enemy. And I said, what's that? And he said, it's a paper about music. And I'd never heard of such a thing. To me, newspapers were the Daily Mirror, Pete Wilson and the Sports Comment. What are you on about? It's a paper about music. What, just about music? Yeah. What, it's just, for fuck's sake, read it. You know? Yeah. And I read The Enemy and the light went on. I thought, that is what I want to do in life. I mean, at the children's home, there was a record shop in Woking called Airco's, and the guy there was lovely, and he used to, records they didn't sell, he'd bring up to the home. They just, we can't get rid of these, you have them.
You're quite the collection then after a while.
Yeah, but it was right across the board. Yeah. It was like Fiddler on the Roof, I remember that sound. The Dubliners, we had the Dubliners' greatest hits, The Faces, Not As Good As a... Do you know what I mean? I mean, it was just... And then a mate of mine who had joined the children's home, Des Hurrian, God rest his soul, he was 14, 15, I was 12. He had a bit of money, so he'd be going to record shops and buying imports. Here's this band, they're called Steely Dan. Wow. Yeah, wow. Colin Nolly, who was a hippie, had the Woodstock triple album. Listen to this guy called Jimi Hendrix. And then Bowie happened.
Just subsumed yourself in music.
Yeah, and Sunday nights we'd all gather around the radio. Bowie better be number one. Fucking hell, Queen. No, it was the Radio 1. The top 30, 10, Fucking hell. Fucking Benny Hill's number 1. I'd be depressed for a week.
Fastest milkman.
Yeah, I'd be depressed. I'd wake up thinking, fucking Benny Hill. Faces should be number 1.
Did you start writing then?
No. I started writing about when, what happened was punk happened and fanzines happened. That's when I began writing. But even before that, Sean, I went to the Reading Festival in 1973. 16 years old, and Sounds newspaper have a tent, and I go in there and ask for a job. Can I come and write for you? The guy was like, what are you, a loony? What do you want to write
did you go and write reviews of records before so you could say, here's the sort of stuff I write, or just give me a job? Yeah. I mean, I was obsessed with The Enemy, obsessed with anything to do with music. I mean, what was the break then?
The break was that basically after I left the children's home, I went to live with a friend of mine, Pete Garland, and there was this big office equipment factory. They made office equipment, and I went to work there, and I thought, I have to get out of Woking.
Everyone in Woking says that, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Woking.
Yeah. So I applied to college.
One thing before you talk about that is the amount of people who are, say, 17 or 18 or 16 or whatever age you were, who have to check with their parents what they want to do. Like, you're just there. Eventually the school goes, right, off you go.
Yeah, well, I did a second book called But We All Shine On, where I found 4 of the kids in the children's home, but I write about it in there. I was completely free. I didn't have mum and dad going, no, you're going to London to be a music writer.
Exactly.
What are you on about? You're going to university and then, or you're going to go and work in that shop over there, or this is what you're doing. I had none of that.
Were you very independent?
No, what I was very determined. I was obsessed with it. That's what you got to have. You got to have the obsession. If you have the obsession, everything was music. Going into Woking Market and buying bootlegs, or going to the rough trade shop. It was just that. Everything was based around it. I had to get to London. The way to get to London was to join a college. I got into North London Poly, and to my absolute delight, discovered that they sold the NME at Camden Town tube station on a Tuesday lunchtime. We didn't get it till Thursday in Woking. Wow, this is like the best thing ever. Education was free at that time. I had a grant. I had a place in some resident halls. I used to, Tuesday lunchtime, straight down to Camden, get the NME. Anyway, I get down there one week. Sorry, mate, sold out. What? Sold out? What are you on about sold out? I haven't got it. What, you haven't got any out back? No, you ain't. So I bought Melody Maker. Now, at the same time, I'm writing for the college newspaper called Fuse, it was. Bands, album reviews, blah, blah, blah. Get Melody Maker home. I'm really pissed off. Open it up. Advert, young writers wanted. I thought,
First time you bought it?
Yeah. So I cut out the stuff I've done for Fuse. I put it in an envelope. I write a letter. I send it off. And I think, don't be stupid, Paolo, no. On Thursday, I get a phone call. Hi, this is Melody Maker. Would you like to come in for a... And on Friday night, I'm in the editor's office. Looking up, let me tell you, at a poster of the Italian football team from 1970 and saying, the editor, do you like football? He said, yeah. I said, well, I'm half Italian and that's who I supported in the World Cup final when we lost 4-1 to Brazil. So we got on very well. And they started giving me live reviews to do. That was June of 78. By September of 79, I had so much work from Melody Maker, I couldn't, I'd be going into cars and they'd be going, have you got your essay about humour in Shakespeare? I'd be going, no, but I've got Jerry Dammer's interview, if that's any good to you.
You were making a few bob.
I was getting by.
And then what happened?
Melody Maker went on strike for 6 weeks. When they came back, a few of the staff had left and they offered me a staff job. So in 1980, I was been at college 22. A year, and here I was at Melody Maker.
I mean, that must have been a dream come true for you. Since you were 12.
Yeah, 14. Yeah.
14.
No, it wasn't, because it wasn't the NME. I hated Melody Maker.
Yeah,
the reason I hated Melody Maker was because it was really old-fashioned still. And I'd be trying, why are you putting so-and-so on the cover? Look, there's this band, they're called Madness. No. We're gonna...
You got to work for New Music Express, though, eventually, right?
By this time, I'd become friends with Paul Weller. In summer of 82, he said, I'm going to split the band up, will you write our bio? So what I did was...
So that's the Jam being split up?
Yeah.
Right. And he was forming the Style Council then with Nick Talbot?
Well, no, he wasn't forming the Style Council then, but he decided to end the Jam.
Talk to me a bit about the Jam now that we're on.
Well, I used to see them around Woking. They were like Woking's band. One thing about them, what a dreadful name for a band. I used to think, oh God, I could just see them sitting around the table going,
well, it's good the way you... But I never think of it like that.
No, you don't.
I just say it.
When you're not known, you just think, God...
But they're almost more powerful than the name.
Yeah.
It's a good point. And actually Oasis is a shit name as well.
Yeah, because you look round, you think, you know how the thought process went. Somebody was sitting around at a table, and I found this out, we've had bread, we've had the marmalade, it's at the Jam.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
We must set up a band called Butter.
Anchor. And I used to see them around town. They were a 5-piece band. They were playing R&B covers, pre-punk. I met Weller. There was another Woking band called Squire. Enzo Esposito, who was reading the NME when I came in, he was in Squire. I had a part-time job at a shoe shop called Curtis, and he brought Paul up. Young Americans by Bowie is everywhere. Yeah. Everyone's wearing flares, high-heel shoes, stack shoes they were called, tank tops. And there's this guy standing before me in a parka with white socks and stay pressure. And I thought, we were wearing that 3 years ago. What is this guy? Do you know what I mean? What fucking... What? And it was all this, what? It's all that. Yeah, what? And then I'd see him around town and he'd pull up, he'd go, you're Paolo, aren't you? I'd go, yeah. He said, you're Enzo's mate. That was it. You're Enzo's mate, aren't you? I said, hello, Paul, how are you? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Yeah, all right. Boom. Off you go on his scooter. 2 months later, you're Enzo's mate, aren't you? Yeah. Seen Enzo? No. All right. Anyway, this goes on. This kind of grunting for about 2 years, and then in April of 77, I walk into the Cotteridge Hotel pub, which is where we used to drink, having on the Wednesday bought the NME with the Jam on the cover, on the Thursday seen them on Top of the Pops. And you've got to remember, to be on telly that day was a big deal. It was, wow, you know, and then on Friday, I walk in the car and he's sitting there on his own, Paul. And I just turned away like that and I thought, what do I do here? If I say hello, he might think I'm just saying hello because he was on the cover of the NME. And if I don't say hello...
Or you could say, all right.
Yeah. You know, but if I don't say hello, he might just think I'm being rude.
Yeah.
So I'm just standing there at the bar. What do I do? What do I do? I've got a real pop star here. Do you know what I mean? This guy's like come from Woking. He's on the cover end. What do I do? And I hear, you're Enzo's mate, aren't you?
Brilliant.
We got very drunk that night. Anyway, by now, in 1980 or 1979, I'd done a piece about the Jam, which everybody really liked. So Paul had asked me to write the book. I got Tony Stewart, who was an editor at NME, to edit it. So that kind of got me into the NME world.
When did you join NME?
In 1983, because Tony said to me, oh, by the way, as I was hoping, he said, we've got some staff vacancies coming up, why don't you apply? And I applied and got the job.
So was that first day at NME?
First day at NME, do you know what I thought?
I've made it.
No.
No?
Is that all there is?
You were very happy.
No.
No?
No, because I write about this in the books. You have this vision. It's all illusion, right? It's all illusion, because I used to have this thing, I used to look at pictures of NME writers and think, wouldn't it be great? You know, they look so cool, and if I was standing there like I'm one of them, and somebody comes up, hey, Paolo, great article, man, really good, you know. And it happened. You know, I was standing in the NME office and a guy came, oh, great article. But it's just illusion, because I thought if I joined the NME, all my problems will go away. But they didn't. You've got to remember, I'm from a children's home. I've been kicked the shit out all the time by my foster mother. I've got serious problems, which I think by joining the NME is going to
magically disappear.
And of course they're not.
But isn't it better than not joining the NME?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not putting it down, but I remember just thinking, because I'd spent all this time obsessing, the NME, and when you get there, you've got a bunch of guys in them, you know.
How was your mental health like?
I'll tell you something. In 1984, at the NME, my Jam book had come out to great acclaim, was selling like hotcakes. I was seeing a very beautiful blonde girl called Claire. I was quite well known, I was financially fine, and I was with a very good friend of mine, Pete Barrett, and Pete said, God, your life must just be great, Paolo, you've done this, you've got this, and I felt like shit, because I was depressed. I had real low self-esteem. I used to think all my writing was crap. If people came up to me and said, I really like that piece you did, I think, why'd you fucking like it? It's crap, you know. I was so low on confidence, so low on self-esteem.
So you had that gnome inside that was saying you're not good enough and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And
but that was a time when you had to hide stuff like that.
Yeah, I couldn't talk about that because I wouldn't know who to talk to about it. It was just saying, you know, I'd lie awake at night thinking, oh God, they're going to... It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. And it went on till the early 90s.
Really? So for 10 years?
Yeah, it was 10 years of, you know, and also the thing was, Sean, I was very shy. And everybody thought I was arrogant. Because people kind of think, oh, it's Paolo from the NME, and I'd be all right, and be like that.
It's quite a nice story about the time you met Paul Weller, you know.
Yeah. Is that? Yeah.
Did you get out of the funk, or what happened?
I read a book called You Can Heal Your Life. In it, even though there was a lot I was resistant to, there was one line in there which said, you spend your time telling yourself you're dreadful, why don't you spend your time telling yourself you're wonderful? And I thought,
that worked.
Oh, yeah, and I just started doing that, and suddenly I thought, oh, okay. And then I thought, you know what, you've had 10 years of people saying to you that you're a good writer. One of them's got to be right. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you are a good writer. I mean, if you're getting articles in there...
I know, but it was just, I was just so hard on myself. And I write about this in Colour Me Father. I talk about this, and I still do, this obsession with Robert De Niro, because De Niro was like my God. He was like the one. I would read about, like for The Godfather, he went to Sicily and learned Sicilian. I thought I'm going to learn Italian. But I would give up after 3, and then it was just a way of whipping myself. See how rubbish you are? You can't do that. You're fucking rubbish. You are. You're a loser.
Even this thing you talked about upstairs before we started, that you like to do 2 things. And focus on those.
One if possible. Yeah.
So this book came out, the book that changed your life was in the 90s when you read it.
Yeah.
In that intervening period, you then started pumping out nearly a book every 2 years, right?
No, more than less than that,
Yeah.
Well, but look, for me, writing has always been one of the great joys of my life. you lose yourself. When you write, you lose yourself. When you're, all that matters, you can have the biggest problems in the world, but you start writing your book, and all that matters is, am I getting this right? And the thing about books is, if you do them properly, you wake up thinking about them, you have breakfast thinking about them, you spend your day writing and working on them, and you go to bed thinking about them. And then you wake up thinking about them. That's what you have to do. Kind of everything else kind of goes away. I remember when I did my first Oasis book, which was 125,000 words long, and took me about 11 months of getting up at 7 in the morning and working till like 1 in the morning. I remember after it was finished, and it was like I didn't know who I was or what to do with myself. You know, I've been so consumed with this thing.
How did the Oasis thing happen?
Because I met Noel. Noel knew who I was because I'd written that Jam book. They played the Astoria, and I met him after that. So your Paolo, I liked your Jam book. So he was a big Jam fan. So, and then he lived down the road from me, it turned out. And he said, why don't you come around and watch football? So I used to go around and watch football and kind of spoil.
What's your take on that whole Noel Liam thing and what's happened?
I think to myself, it was always bound to. Why Liam wants to reform Oasis, I'll never know. Why should you? You've just had a #1 album, which is Outsold Your Brothers. And Noel, I think, is, from what I hear, is very happy doing what he's doing. He can go wherever he wants. So why, you know?
I mean, there was that time when Oasis and Blur and all.
Oh, look, man, I'll tell you what. Right, when I was on tour with them, the best gigs, Dublin.
Really?
Oh man.
Point Depot.
Yeah,
Point Depot. Yeah.
Wow. It was like one of your own were coming back. Do you know what I mean? That Irish connection. Dublin went, man. They were outside the hotel every night singing Oasis songs all night long. No, I wonder.
Yeah, I know. But it was
amazing.
England and Britain was a sort of it was charging.
Yeah,
around then, wasn't
it was
you
great.
Know? I mean, it probably, if you talk about the 70s Jam and all that stuff, it wasn't quite. It clicked then, I think, or something. And Ireland was staring over, and we were trying to desperately scrabble up the sort of ladder as well.
Did an Irish group I always meant to look into more was Ash,
yeah, they were very good.
Great songs,
they were, you know, U2 went and did their thing, and there was always this thing about who's going to ride the coattails. So there was Hot As Flowers, Ash. There was a lot of bands that nearly into a new.
Robin Friday. The greatest musician you never saw.
One of the other things that we have to talk about is you love fashion. You talked about the.
It all stems from the children's zone, because basically when those friends of mine all became suede heads, I didn't have the money. But those clothes fascinated me, because suddenly young boys had become men. You know, us little teenagers, suddenly they look like men. Wow. You know, the
suits,
and the Crombies and. But I didn't have the money to buy it, and I was so sort of, had this intensity. So that when I got money, which is when I started working for Melody Maker, I just kept buying that stuff. I kind of bought the stuff, because I couldn't have it 6 years earlier, so I bought it now,
But you wrote a book then about the Beatles style, which is...
Yeah. Usually, by the time you get to the end of a book, you're thinking, just get me to the end now. But that book, I hated finishing. I loved it.
You said you would have...
it was just brilliant.
It's amazing when you think about the Beatles, the sheer output that they managed in such a short period of time.
It's unbelievable.
You feel like they were around for 30 years. They were around for, 10, if that?
Yeah, well, 58 to 68, really. I mean, recording 62 to... And think 70. About it, they're doing... an album, 2 albums a year, plus singles, plus tours.
And the images of the beards and the caftans and the Sgt. Peppers and the... Well, they changed all the time. Yeah. I mean, and that book was great because it kind of gave you different insights into them. For example, when Pete Best said, when I first saw the Beatles, they were walking down the road, I could tell by the way Lennon dressed, he was the leader. And when they made Sgt. Pepper, they had all those clothes in the studio as kind of sources of inspiration. Yeah. And this guy said to me, he worked at Apple, he said, I knew Apple was over. Shall I tell you what day it was? I said, what? He went, the day Paul McCartney came in wearing a suit. Because no one wore suits up until then, but then he did. And if you wore a suit in '68, that was like you were a businessman, and it was like, I'm now going to stop this money hemorrhaging away. Yeah. Do you have any truck with the Beatles Rolling Stones thing?
The thing about the Stones is, it's obviously great songs and blah blah blah, but they've never been as interesting because all they were interested in is doing drugs and shagging loads of girls. They've always stayed at that kind of decadent thing. Whereas the Beatles were like
they flamed
R&B, and then they were Sgt. Pepper, and then they were Revolver, and then they were into
Indian Maharashi.
To do that in 1967, to say we're going to give up drugs and follow this strange little Indian. Wow, the whole world followed.
And I find it embarrassing that Rolling Stones still performing, at the moment. It's just fucking you and me, let's go.
Well, the trouble you have, and I thought about it, and I think about this about McCartney, is they can't give it up, because if they give it up, they've got no identity. If Mick Jagger, I'm sure Mick Jagger's a century of money, right? But or Paul McCartney, but they wouldn't be. Their identities are so mixed up with who their public and their personal thing that they can't extricate themselves.
Yeah.
So Paul McCartney can go, you know what, I've done my bit, I'm going to stay at home. Because he wouldn't have people going, right, Paul, we're going to tour.
But he does it in a way that's more elegant for his age.
Well, he does, but what I'm saying is they can't give it up. They just can't let it. It's ego.
What about the whole drug thing? Is that worse now or bad then, or was it over-reported or all the time?
No, really.
It was more hype, was it?
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about Oasis, I mean, Noel would say things at Brest, when I get up in the morning, I sprinkle cocaine on my cornflakes.
What about music today? I
don't really listen.
Yeah.
When
did it all stop? Sometime in the 90s, I think.
Well, basically, and also I just kind of get to a point where I've heard so much music now that I think, somebody go, you got to hear this new track. Oh, okay. And you go, that's the Beach Boys mixed with the Velvet Underground with Sly Stone.
I think it was probably the end of when albums stopped, so there was a brief flare with things like Kasabian, Mezzanine by Massive Attack, Tom York and Radiohead. And there was a brief period where there was some amazing albums, and then it just sort of dropped off a cliff. And then we had
there's two guys at the moment. If I'm going to play music, because basically I'm really I've kind of reignited my film because I'm trying to write scripts at the moment. Because for me, books are finished, apart from Colour Me Father. But if there's two guys, that is John Coltrane and Van Morrison.
Right.
Yeah.
People in Ireland have a love-hate with him. He has an arrogance. Now he is undoubtedly a genius.
Yeah, without
but he has this arrogance about him that a lot of people get turned off by.
I love his spiritual stuff. See, that's what I go for.
He's going down in history in Ireland as God.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is about Van is that he's got such a vast body of work. Astral Weeks and Moondance, I think, overshadowed a lot of his work. So every time you put out, it's not as good as Astral Weeks. But somebody like me comes along and goes, I like Astral Weeks singing, but this track here, wow, what? And this one here, and Hints from the Silence, and what's this on Hindford Street, and all that stuff. Wow, man.
Do you think music will ever get back?
No, a friend of mine said this, and I think it's really true. He said, imagine classical music, right? That was the dominant musical form. And it petered out, and jazz petered out, and pop will one day peter out.
One of the things I like to ask people is what they'd say to their younger self. Let's talk about your new book, because you did it for your
my
younger
son.
self.
I did. Yeah.
Talk to me about.
I've got two children. I've got a daughter of 30, and I've got Rafi, who came along 3.5 years ago now. And I kind of kept thinking when he was born, am I going to write about this? But there was nothing until it was his first birthday. And we were in this room at home, and it was a birthday cake had been brought in, and all my friends were around, and blah, blah, blah. And his mum was carrying him, but with his back to everyone. And they sang him happy birthday, and then they applauded. And he'd never heard applause before. He turned around with this expression on his face, and I thought, God, you've never heard applause before. It just triggered something in me, and I just started writing about that party. And then I just kind of kept it going. Because I was his main carer from when he was 1 till now. My wife would go to work, and I would take Rafi to these what called stay and plays nurseries in the morning, feed him at lunchtime, then we go to the park or do whatever we do. And I realised that there was this kind of healing going on for me. There really was. The thing is, Sean, people used to say to me about happy childhood, right? Which obviously I didn't have. I had a very, very, very unhappy childhood. But happy childhood to me was really abstract. It was like you might as well be talking in Russian.
Did you ever get to your dad?
No.
No. Right.
But when Rafi came along, I started seeing a happy childhood because he was having a happy childhood. He's a really happy little kid. He smiles and he always wants to have fun, and I thought, oh my God, this is a happy child. So now I could see a happy child, or I could understand a happy child. Then it could become mine in some way.
You could fix the wound.
Yeah.
I loved your quote. I mean, it's so fucking simple.
Yeah.
A quote you said about being a dad is like, he's walking in front of you and he looks behind you.
Yeah. My mate told me that. He said,
lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Pete Barrett again. I was going around to everyone going, what do I do? I'm a father. What do I do? And finally Pete said, Paolo, I had the best dad in the world. And when I had my first card, I was as scared as you are. All I know is this: when they're walking in front of you, when they turn around, make sure you're there.
Yeah.
The advice to my younger self would be, don't worry, it will be all right.
And what about the world that we live in? Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
As I say in the book, there's a song from New York, New York, De Niro, Liza Minnelli film called The World Keeps Turning. It will keep turning.
Don't worry.
Yeah. The thing to do, and what I'm saying to Rafi is, when you start off, you want to change the world. You think this is wrong, and I'm going to change it, blah, blah, blah.
By the time you're 50.
What you have to do is change yourself.
So tell me why a father should buy this book.
Because it's a good read. I was just hoping that if fathers read it, they would go, yeah, I feel like that. I think the most important thing, or some of the most important things for me in art, whether that be a film, a music or books, is that you watch it and you go, I'm not the only one who thinks like that.
Yeah, true. I'm giving people goosebumps.
Yeah. When I write about De Niro in Colour Me Father, I'm talking about him because when I watched him, I thought, thank God for that, I'm not the only one. And he kind of made it all right. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay to be an outsider. It's okay to be a fuck-up. It's okay to have all these crazy thoughts. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. It's a lonely place to be sometimes, but it's okay.
Paolo, a pleasure to be here.
No, it's been great, thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show. And
thank you.
Look after yourself. I'm the little fella.
By the way, part of my Colour Me Father book, I did a DNA test and I'm 12% Irish.
There you go, come over. Everyone in England wants to be Irish now.
Of course, yeah, well, of course. You're fucking in the EU, aren't you?
There's a link at the bottom of the podcast to how to buy Paolo's book.
Colour Me
Fathers,
Father.
go buy it.
Yeah, thank you.
Look after yourself, Chief.
You as well, my man.